Hi, everyone, and welcome to this very special event. I'm Keith Ward, a moderator with Actual Tech Media, and it's my pleasure to introduce to you today our guests, John Lafayette with Broadcasting and Cable and Multi-Channel News, and David Solomon, CEO of Viamedia. They're going to do a deep dive on how to make ad insertions more efficient and effective while at the same time simplifying operations. Now, before we get started, I wanted to mention that we'd love to get your questions. You'll see a questions tab there on your screen right next to the handouts tab, and that's where you ask them. We'll be taking your questions throughout today's discussion, so make sure to keep them coming. And now I'll turn things over to you, John.
Thanks, Keith. Hello, everyone. I'm John Lafayette, business editor at Broadcasting and Cable and senior content producer for Multi-Channel News. We're excited to have a conversation today with David Solomon, the CEO of Viamedia. Thanks for being here, David.
I appreciate it, John. Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about Viamedia, how long it's been around, and what it is and what it does.
Yeah. Well, we've been around since 2001, so this is going on our 24th year in business. Um, in essence, and my mother asks me what I do every day, and I struggle at telling her because it's a little confusing. But in essence, we're an ad sales operator. That's basically what we're a sales team. We have a sales army, but it's more than that. What we strive to do is take partners' inventory or supply and monetize it on their behalf. And so they rep it out to us, and we staff it. We have multiple models, but our turnkey model is what we started with, which is we put in local, regional, national, political sellers in the right spots in the right places to monetize the supply or the inventory that a MVPD or a cable operator or a telco may have, and they can concentrate on higher margin business. They can focus on their core business. We'll take care of the ad sales. They need to cash our checks. It's probably the least they need to be involved. And then the most they have to be involved is they may want to get involved in how we go to market. Um, Local businesses who we're talking to, because there may be some synergies there. So that's basically what we do. We're a sales team, but we do the technical integration from the time that we make a proposal or we meet a client all the way to getting them an invoice. Everything in between, we take care of everything.
And how long have you been with Viamedia, and how long have you been in charge?
I've been with Viamedia for this is my 23rd year. Now I've taken over as CEO in 2020, late 20. So, so it's been we've had some really last 3 years have been phenomenal. So, been great.
CEO is a nice title, right?
Yeah, it comes with the heavy lies the crown. So you know how that goes.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So Viamedia works with cable and broadband providers, and we've seen a trend of operators focusing on their high margin broadband business and choosing, in some cases, to get out of the programming and ad sales business. You don't think that's a particularly good idea. What would you say to operators weighing their strategic options right now?
Well, as you look at the ad insertion business, the question is, I would take a pause button, they probably are taking a pause button. But I would really think about the long term effect and how video ad insertion may affect your business in the long term. Um, because if you look at case studies of various organizations and their stock price, we're talking some public organizations, I'm not going to mention names, but as they've decided to unbundle or get out of the video business and sub that out to another third party, or just completely get out of it, it looks, smells, and acts, especially their high-speed data, becomes a more commoditized business. Very similar to your mobile phone carrier. You got a wide variety of options, and you may switch phones and carriage randomly, but the loyalty seems to fall off a little bit. And we found and we've noticed if you watch these companies, what happens to their high-speed data sales post unbundle. And knowing enough about the business, and we're here to make it easy for operators, that's a pretty important revenue line and margin line for an operator. the high-speed data business. So most recently, I saw a company that's their stock price has fallen 80%, and it 60 days after the unbundle is when the drop off started happening. Now, is that random? I don't know, but you can pretty much look across the board and see that there is a corollary between unbundling your service and your high speed data sales depreciating. And what does that
So you're,
do for business?
so you're saying basically that being part of the bundle protects that high margin broadband business and prevents you from being a victim of price competition, especially.
It is. I mean, it definitely makes you more sticky with the retail, or not even retail, with the consumer. Because then you just become you can shop your data anywhere. So yes, I believe that is a strong in this, and depending on how local your market is, it really does matter because there's some loyalty and seeing local ads as well. And that's not even mentioning how you're marketing your business um, to your retail customers. Are you upselling them with your own inventory? So that's a whole nother gamut that we may or may not be front and center when you're looking at a spreadsheet.
And are most operators aware of this dynamic when you have these conversations, or is this something that they sort of haven't thought about, or that it hasn't reached that level of executive yet?
Well, it depends on who I'm talking to. If I'm talking to the CMO, it's definitely they're aware. If I'm talking to the CFO, sometimes it becomes dollars and cents and margins, and looking at the long-term strategy may or may not be front and center. And I respect, you got to make decisions in this. It's an expensive business to be in. Programming's not cheap. Um, it's just really thinking this through on a long-term perspective. What impact does ad insertion have on my high-speed data business and my B2B business? Something to consider among all other things, rather than just looking at a spreadsheet.
Okay, now from the operator's point of view, let's not kid ourselves. The advertising business isn't easy for them. They need sales teams, they need equipment, they need technology, and it's constantly changing. Does working with Viamedia make being in the ad business easier for them?
I sure hope so. When we started, we had one operator. We're close to 80 at this point. So we're all over America. We're primarily United States. Um, we strive to make we our one of our catchphrases is we want to make things easy. We make ad insertion simple. So we want to make it if we don't come across your radar and we're not causing your ad insertion teams, your tech ops teams any problems. Make sure that the consumer experience is they're not seeing any pixelation or audio issues. Not to say that's not happened. It has, and we strive to resolve those. But our goal is to make it really simple. Um, we're going to take care of everything. Um, the least you have to do is cash our checks.
Cashing the checks is something they're probably pretty good at
They're
this
pretty
point.
good at that usually. Most people are. So, but they can get involved as much as they want. We have some operators that really want to get involved. How does our sales team interact with their B2B sales team? What's our strategy? What are we saying to customers? And there's some that really dig in and get involved, and we welcome it. Absolutely welcome.
So does Viamedia sell to both national advertisers and to local advertisers?
Yeah, Via Media is we really focus on local because that's the heavy lifting of ad and it's the most expensive piece, putting bodies in the market, going out um, to local customers, having a conversation on behalf of our partner, and really holding their hand and teaching the retail customer a good ad campaign, a good ROI. How does how to, and being a brand extension for our operator in that market. Secondarily, we focus on regional, which is your larger agencies, but more regionally based, and we have teams that go and focus on those. And that kind of between local AEs and regional, it kind of mixes because there's bigger dollars coming out of those regional shops. National is what we talk about is we have them placed in major markets. So we have sales teams that live, breathe, sit in New York, Chicago, LA, Dallas, Atlanta, and they're there 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So we don't fly people in. These are really highly trained executives with relationships with these ad agencies. And that was kind of we put that in place in 2003. And we didn't want to just fly in and fly out. We want to be in our customers' back pocket. If there's a change, we're on it immediately. And our job is not, most of our operators don't represent, you know, 50, 60, 70% of a marketplace. They represent 3% of Cleveland or 1% of this DMA or 17% of this DMA. So you got to still sell our product. We've got to explain the value of our operator subscribers, which requires relationships and really, really skilled media executives uh, in those markets. And then lastly, we have our political team who is camped out in DC, both political years and non-political.
Sounds like those national ad dollars are dollars that an individual operator of that size probably couldn't scrape up by themselves. It's essentially free incremental dollars.
It is. I mean, typically when we look at a new system, it's usually an operator's looking at lowering their cost or increasing their margin, um, and so they're looking for options. Viamedia is a good option, and we have competitors as well, so they're good companies as well. It's just who do you believe is going to do best for you? But yeah, the national piece is typically one of the fastest growth opportunities. So we plug in our national team, and there's usually a pretty significant lift, both nationally and politically, and then what we call remnant direct response. So those are the first three areas that an operator notices. Oh man, I'm getting a lot more money now, and that's where it's coming from. And then we go
Low
out
hanging
and
fruit.
grind on the street with our local reps.
Gotcha. What are we talking about in terms of buying expensive insertion equipment or other gear? Do you guys provide that, or do you work with whatever they have in their plant?
The hard part about this is it's I wish it was simpler, but we have to be. You think of like Baskin Robbins. Media has to offer 31 flavors or more. So depending on what the operator is using, we'll customize our plan to fit into their tech stack. You don't customize to fit into our tech stack. So we've got 12, 15, 20 different variations, and we work with whatever you're working with. So I don't care if it's traditional ad insertion, which is digital or analog. There is still some analog out there, but we put the capex in that fits into your tech stack, and we work with your tech ops team, and we want to make it seamless. If you're starting to get into the connected TV or addressable TV, there we got to work with every provider, and there's a bunch of them out there. So we're kind of Switzerland. We'll play with anybody.
Hey, you mentioned addressable advertising. Are you guys able to provide all of the latest advanced advertising, whether it's addressable advertising, whether it's data-driven digital, whether there's some reconnections that people want to do over the internet and coordinating digital advertising with their linear advertising?
Yeah, there's two. We try to vocabulary wise. We'll talk digital first. The digital side is more, let's call that, over the top or display ads, banner ads, search, and there's thousands of products within digital. So, and we represent a ton of them. So yes, we also help our operators by helping them place their digital marketing to reach new and their current and new customers. But in addition, we can do any and all digital based business. Now, when you get into the addressable side or connected TV, that's kind of where things are moving. And the benefit of that is pretty interesting because now we're able to zone down to the device or down to the household, which means ad agencies and clients typically, for greater targetability and better data, they'll pay higher costs or higher per spot or CPMs, which it flows all the way back to our operator. The better we sell, the more they make. And so that those tools, and depending on who you're working with, whether it's a Moby or a Tangerine or a Vecima, Velocix, Harmonix, Minerva, all of them, we're integrated with everybody. So depending on who you're working with, we can make it work. It's just we got to work with your the company you've chosen.
Excellent. Now, operators are also making a transition from providing programming over traditional means to streaming. How does Viamedia help with that transition and help operators sell all of their viewers to advertisers? Tell me about Parrot and who was using it.
Oh, okay. Well, what we found, we've got our, let's just call it 80 operators out there. And I've got local sellers. So we were trying to figure out early on as our partners start converting to streaming. Most of our partners don't flip a switch, and on December 31st, they've got 30,000 or 20,000 or 10,000 subscribers that are in their traditional ad insertion model. They don't, on January 1st, they don't flip a switch and they're now all streaming. It's just, that's not how most, I'd say 99% of operators don't do it that way. They slowly migrate their consumers over to the addressable platform or the streaming platform. So let's take a 10,000 subsystem. In month one, you may have 9,900 ESPN watchers watching traditional ESPN. And then you have 100 subscribers that are getting it streaming. And so there's this migration over time. And we found it usually takes 3 to 5 years to migrate. That's not my call. That's how fast the operators migrate, because they do it, they transition, 5, 10, 20% a year. We'd love to see that faster because there's higher dollars that can be garnered from the addressable side. But it's, we fit into your platform. However you guys want to do it, we'll do it. So the migration, I found that, okay, so my sellers are going to have to go out and sell this 100 subscribers or whatever it is at the time. It's month 3, month 5, month 10, whatever it is, it's a fraction of the total subscribers. And so I'm going to have to go sell it one way to the advertiser for this fractional piece and my normal way for the majority. And we were cautious with that because what it really could open up is, you know what, I'm not worried about these addressable subs because they're too small. And you just reduce the amount of eyeballs. I'll just buy your traditional until you grow up. And so one, I didn't want my sellers out there selling it 2 different ways until they were big enough. 2, I didn't want to leave any money on the table because my job is to maximize the value of the operation and the supply. So what we decided is we took a page out of 1991 when we had the analog to digital conversion. And ESPN was on analog and on digital. So no matter what ad you're looking at, whether you're watching SD or HD, you're seeing the same ad. We just replicate it, which is Parrot. Parrots replicate what you say. So what we're doing is if you're watching traditional TV, ESPN, or addressable TV, the same ad's running. And we can sell it one way, capture all the eyeballs. And the key to this is it's not hardware driven, it's software driven. So in 24 hours, I can put this in a system and I can retain all your subscribers and all your revenue. And we do that for not only our customers, but other customers. We're working with customers that we don't even represent. We just plug our software in and they use it and their sales teams do it. So that's where Parrot came into play. It does have a shelf life. This eventually will be, I'm going to say 10 years. It may not be relevant, but it is extremely relevant today. If you're an ad sales team or an ad agency, this is important. You want to make it as simple as possible for people to buy your product.
And for your operators, you want to make sure that every single possible eyeball is getting monetized and not put on a backbench or a shelf somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, we're here to drive. As long as a friend of mine told me is as long as you make the customer's cash registers ring, you'll always be in business. And so if we slowly start reducing the amount of people that are seeing your campaign, Mr. Advertiser, you're going to get a smaller ROI. And so we got to maximize all the eyeballs and all the potential eyeballs out there.
And that's sort of what's happening with cord cutting is it's cutting down the number of eyeballs. So you got to make sure that the ones that you have are getting monetized as best as possible.
Yeah, and that's where this Parrot is a really light, simple solution that fits in not only for our customers, for any ad operator out there. We'll plug it in for you. We'll license it to you. I don't mind. It's necessary.
So is Parrot eat crackers or what?
It's parody crackers. I don't know the answer.
There,
So
there you go. So this is an election year, and there's expected to be billions and billions of dollars spent on election type ads in this presidential year. A lot of that spending is going to be local. Can you help operators cash in on this potential windfall?
yeah, we love political years. My neighbors and my family hate the political ads. They get sick of them. I love them. Every single one. I welcome more and more of them. So yeah, the political piece is a big portion of our business, and we have dedicated teams focused on those political ad agencies and representation shops. So um, very, very important. More often than not, when I work with a new cable system, or at least I'm doing my diligence and looking at what their revenues are, there's nine out of 10 times they're leaving a ton of money on the table. It could be hundreds of thousands, could be millions of dollars. This next year is predicted to be the biggest year to eclipse 22 and 20, which were unbelievable political years. And this upcoming year is predicted to be even larger than that. So it's going to be raining political ads, which means it's going to be raining political money. We're here to gather up all of it as much as we can for our.
And these operators, it's not just, you don't just put out a bucket. You sort of have to compete against the local television stations. You have to compete against the new CTV competition that's also trying to collect as much of this political revenue as humanly possible.
Yeah, the challenge in our industry, and it's not a new challenge. You go back to the 90s. It's aggregating the fragmentation. It's the new thing. It's things fragment out, and they come back together, and they're going to fragment again. So right now, CTV, broadcast, network, they're going to buy it all. It's just how do you make sure you're in front of the right buyer, giving the right story, explaining the right value proposition of why these subscribers are so important to this campaign. And that's what we specialize in. We have to sell our product. We don't just go out there and put it on a billboard and people buy it. We have to go out and sell it. And so a lot of there's an art to it, but it's also very science. Making sure you have the right people talking to the right buyers with the right story. What is the value proposition, and why are these 4% of Cleveland or 4% of Pennsylvania or 15 or whatever? Why is that impactful to the campaign? And you really got to put data behind your sales pitch, and that's what we do with our political teams.
As long as you have operators that are sitting in those battleground states, every vote is crucial, and a lot of dollars will be coming their way.
Yeah, I've seen campaigns where people have gone heavy broadcast, and those campaigns have ultimately ended up being pretty significant failures. Not saying broadcast is the wrong way, but you got to spread it around. You really do, because whether it's digital, whether it's cable, whether it's broadcast or network, people consume media in different ways, and you could be leaving, what will tip the scale in your campaign or um, in your goal. It could be the difference between winning and losing.
So if I'm an operator and I was considering offering broadband only, this wouldn't be the perfect year to do that.
I would not suggest. I mean, if you're deciding, God bless, everybody makes their decision. If you're getting out of the video business, you wait till an odd year. You wait till 25, or you did it in 23. But in 24, 26, 28, those aren't the years to not be in the game.
Because it's a lot of incremental dollars that will just show up. I mean, you have to go out and sell them, but it's nice to know that there's a lot of money being raised and being directed to this effort.
That's correct. I mean, it's you know, significant lift year over year, and you'll see that every even year. There's not a lot you have to do. It's just stay in the game. And if you're and I don't want anyone to get out of the video business for all the reasons we just mentioned. But if you're going to time it right, let's just be smart about it.
There you go. Any other questions that are coming to you from your operators in terms of what is the ad business going to look like in the future, and why should I stay in it, and how can you help me?
I think the biggest challenge right now is as people are migrating to these addressable platforms, or at least considering these addressable platforms, there are a lot of questions. There's a lot of unknowns. At least that's what I'm seeing from most of the. If I polled, 100 operators at the NCTC, there's a lot of confusion or lack of understanding. I've had operators say, "Well, we moved to streaming, so we can't do ad insertion." I'm like, "Well, wait a minute. Yes, that's completely wrong. We can drive revenue no matter how you're inserting, whether it's through connected TV and analog equipment, digital equipment. We've our job is to find solutions to help drive revenue for our operators and make it simple. So as we're working with as you're moving to the connected TV platforms and you don't feel you have all of the questions answered, give us a call. We've learned through a lot of different operators as we've probably been down this road. We've taken the wrong turn. We know which we can help be the Magellan getting you to the destination and avoid some of those dead ends or cliffs and try to make that a really smooth trip for you because we've seen it, we've been there, we've done it. We can help you get there a lot easier.
Exactly. So, sort of to review, you believe that you can help operators with their ad business and generate high margin revenue for them?
Well, I don't believe it. I know it. It's a guarantee. Um, Now, I will say this: there are some operators that are doing a fantastic job, and sometimes I'll say, "Hey, listen, tag me out. I'm not the guy for you. You're doing $100 per subscriber. Your sales team's doing great. I can't improve that, and I'll be the first one to say that. Unless we can produce incremental value for you, I don't want to pitch it. But more times than more often than not, you know, that's we look under the hood. We see a way to supercharge their ad sales business, which in effect brings free cash flow, high margin dollars to that operator. That all they have to do is cash the check, and
Right.
that's what we're here to do.
Right. The only cost of the revenue is your commission, right?
That's right. That's right.
And you also think that having a bundle of ad-supported programming and advertising can protect the local operator from competition for the broadband business, right? I mean, they're looking every day. Their customers are looking at ads from T-Mobile and Verizon that advertise low rates. That's hard to compete with if you don't have sort of a local brand and other products in the market that can separate you from those national competitors.
Exactly. And I just challenge. Remember that the consumer sitting in their living room, sitting on their couch or love seat or lazy boy, and all they're seeing are national, no local ads. So what's the consumer's experience? They don't see anything promoting the cable system. They don't see anything promoting um, local. Could be local sports, local nothing. It might as well be Fox News. you know um, so there's nothing that's really making this a local cable operation. Number one. Number two, you're not promoting yourself, which means if you got a 100 gig customer, you're trying to upsell them to 200 gigs or to a meg or whatever you're trying to upsell. We can help target that messaging with your own inventory, which is free to you. And instead of you going out and have to buy that, you can use your own inventory to help juice your current customers and upgrade them. And we do very tactical campaigns to do that. And then lastly, you really got to be careful with your high speed data customers. I challenge anyone that's thinking about getting out of the business, just look at the facts or the historical facts of some operators that have done exactly that. Look at their stock price and just look at the timing of when they unbundled. Is it random that 60 days after their unbundling strategy, high speed data sales went down, their stock price went down? It could be random. I don't think it, I think it has something to do with it.
That's a great point that if you're not selling advertising, you're losing a big promotional opportunity and a big promotional vehicle in your own ad supply.
Right. So I use the ad insertion or ad sales is it's kind of the glue that keeps everything together. That makes what makes you any different um, than a Verizon or it's a large player. I don't want to because I love the folks at Verizon as well. So I don't want to discount them. But what at a local level, what keeps you local and what keeps that bundle together? And video has a tendency to do that. So I'm a big proponent is if you want to get into the future technology, get into streaming. We'll help you. We can help you get there. We can help lower your costs, increase your revenue, and you just got to think of it over a little bit longer term because as you make the migration, it's a little complicated, but we can help you through that and guide you through the maze. But once you get on the other side of that, you've kept your glue to keep your high speed data customers, and you've got an incremental revenue stream that we can sell for much higher dollar than a traditional spot because now I can zone down to the household. It's like direct mail for television.
So we're doing this in January. We're looking forward to all of 2024. What do you see on the horizon in 2024? What are some of your priorities for this year as a business?
As our partners migrate, that's a huge priority for us is to make it as simple and easy as possible. There are more and more players in the middleware, whether it be the Mobis and the Velocics and Decimas and those Harmonics and Minervas. Those players out there, there's more and more growing. So we're constantly trying to make sure we're integrated with any and all. Because if one of our operators is dealing with somebody we don't know about, we better get to know quick because we're going to have to fit into that equation. So that's a huge priority for us. The other side of that is, which I haven't mentioned, which is important, as our partners migrate to connected TV or addressable, we can now bring in a brand new revenue stream that you can't do in traditional, which is programmatic. So this is all new, and it's like expanding your sales force 1,000 times over because now I can put that out and I can allow people to move your inventory that I don't even know who they are. We're buying that inventory currently. Viamedia is buying that through other places. So now I've just expanded the amount of sellers for your cable system by 1,000% because now that programmatic, I can put your inventory into that equation and we can move it. And it puts pressure on the supply, which the more pressure we have on the supply, the higher the rates go because there's a limited amount of inventory. So the more people I have selling it, the more people I have competing for it. Laws of supply and demand kick in. And as we get out of the video business, have we really thought through this, or are we don't trade in your Mickey Mantle baseball card for $100? It might be worth $1.5 million someday, and you're holding on to a Mickey Mantle baseball card. And I just don't trade it in too early. Be careful and think it through.
Okay. There you go. So programmatic is a big opportunity even for small cable
Absolutely.
operators.
We got to get it. The key there is getting that inventory into the mix. And the more we have in the mix, the more impact we have. So our 80 operators, my goal is to get all of that inventory. Every one of my operators moved into that as they migrate to addressable. I want all that inventory in there because it's good for everybody. It's good for the operator. It's good for me. My salespeople, it will raise rates. Ultimately, it will because there'll be more demand on the supply, which could be challenging, but that's a good problem. I welcome that.
No, welcome that problem. Well, that's a good place for us to stop. Thank you, David, for your time. It was very interesting and I learned a lot. Let's do this again real soon.
I love it. I appreciate it, John. Thank you, bud.
Terrific. And back to you, Keith.
Wow, what an informative talk that was. I learned a ton, and I hope you did too. I want to thank John and David for being with us today and educating us on this important topic. And with that, we're out of here, folks. I want to thank all of you for being here today, for your attendance and your interest in this event. Have a great rest of your day.